The Wynne house had always been quiet, the kind of place where even the wind seemed careful not to make too much noise. Tucked at the end of a sleepy cul-de-sac, it stood with pale walls and neatly trimmed hedges, looking peaceful, harmless. That illusion died at 6:42 a.m. Alara Wynne's alarm was still ringing inside her bedroom when her mother, Marianne, knocked on the door. "Alara, you're going to be late for school," she called. No answer. Marianne knocked again, a little harder this time. "Alara?" Still nothing. A faint unease crept into her chest. Ilara was not a heavy sleeper. She always responded, sometimes with an annoyed groan, sometimes with laughter, but never with silence. Marianne reached for the door handle. It didn't turn. "It's locked," she said, glancing over her shoulder toward her husband, Thomas, who was coming up the stairs. "That's strange," Thomas replied. "She never locks it." He pushed against the door. It didn't move. They exchanged a look, the kind of parents share when something feels wrong, but neither wants to say it out loud. Thomas stepped back and slammed his shoulder into the door. The lock snapped. The door swung open, and Alara was gone. Her bed was neatly made, the blankets smooth, as if no one had slept there at all. Her school backpack sat on the chair, her phone was plugged into the charger, its screen glowing softly. Her favorite sneakers were placed by the door, exactly where she always left them. But Ilara wasn't there. Where is she?" Marianne whispered. They rushed through the house shouting her name, bathrooms, closets, basement, backyard, garage. Nothing. No sign of Ilara anywhere. By the time the police arrived, Marianne was shaking, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she hadn't taken a single sip from. Thomas paced back and forth like a trapped animal. Detective Rowan Hale stepped into Alara's bedroom and slowly looked around. "Locked door," he murmured. "No forced entry, no signs of struggle." He bent down and checked the window. Sealed. This is a locked room disappearance. Those are the worst kind. The crime scene team swept the house. Every door was locked. Every window was closed. The alarm system showed no breach. Ilara had vanished from a room no one could enter or leave. Neighbors were interviewed. Most said they had heard nothing, except one. Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman who lived across the street, nervously told police that she had woken up around 2:13 a.m. after hearing a thud, heavy and dull, like a body hitting the floor. "I looked outside," she said, "but the house was dark. No lights, no cars, nothing." Detective Hale returned to Alara's room. Something about it bothered him. The air felt too cold, too still. Then he noticed the mirror. A long crack ran straight down the center as if something had pressed against it from behind. "Pull that away," he told an officer. They removed the mirror. Behind it was a narrow opening in the wall, a hidden space, wide enough for a person. The beam of a flashlight disappeared into darkness. There's no dust disturbed, no footprints. But someone used it. That crack didn't make itself. Marianne collapsed into a chair when she saw the opening. "You're telling me someone was inside our walls?" she whispered. No one answered her. By the end of the day, news vans were parked outside the house. Headlines spread across the city. "Girl vanishes from locked bedroom." People were terrified. Parents checked their children's rooms. Homeowners wondered what was hiding behind their walls. Inside the Wynne house, the silence felt heavier than ever. And somewhere in that silence, Ilara Wynne was missing. The Wynne house no longer felt like a home. Yellow police tape wrapped around its white pillars like a warning, and uniformed officers stood outside day and night. News vans filled the quiet street, cameras pointed at every window. yet the house itself remained silent. Detective Rowan Hale stood inside Alara's bedroom again, staring at the opening behind the cracked mirror. It looked small, too small to swallow a girl, yet the evidence said otherwise. "Someone used this," he said, "and they knew exactly what they were doing." Construction experts were brought in. When they studied the blueprints, their faces grew uneasy. "These don't match," one said. "There are entire sections of the house that don't exist on the official layout." Hidden spaces, crawl tunnels, a sealed staircase that led nowhere. The house had been built by Marcus Hale, a reclusive architect who had lived there decades earlier. No relation to the detective. Marcus had been obsessed with privacy, surveillance, and perfect design. After his death, the house had been sold, remodeled, and resold, but no one had ever discovered what lay beneath its walls. Until now. Inside Alara's bedroom, forensic teams brought in thermal scanners. The screens flickered. "Something's warm back there," an officer said. Behind the walls, something was moving. The Wynn family was taken to a hotel for their own safety. Marianne barely slept. Thomas stared at the TV, watching endless coverage of his missing daughter. The city had become obsessed. Online forums bloomed with theories. Some said Alara ran away. Others said it was supernatural. A few claimed the house was cursed. Then police found Alara's diary. It was hidden beneath her mattress. The last few pages made Detective Hale's blood run cold. "Someone is inside this house. I hear breathing at night. The walls aren't empty." The final entry was dated the night she disappeared. "I think he knows I know." That same night, canine units were brought in. The dogs refused to enter Alara's room. They barked at the walls. They clawed at the floor. Something was there, or had been there recently. Then came the fingerprints. Deep inside one of the crawl spaces, officers found a food wrapper, fresh, still soft, still warm. On it was a fingerprint. When the database returned a match, everyone in the room went silent. The print belonged to Marcus Hale, dead for 22 years. "That's impossible," one officer whispered. Yet there it was. The dead man had touched something in the house, recently. That night, Detective Hale stayed late. He walked the hallways with a flashlight, listening. Tap, tap. Something moved behind the walls. He froze. "Hello?" he called. The tapping stopped. Then, somewhere inside the house, a slow, careful footstep echoed. Not on the floor, inside the walls. By the third day, the Wynn house felt less like a crime scene and more like a living thing. Its walls were being cut open, its floors keeled back. Sections of drywall lay shattered across the lawn like the skin of something dissected. Yet the deeper investigators went, the more the house seemed to resist them, hiding, concealing, misdirecting. Detective Rowan Hale stood over a freshly opened crawl tunnel beneath Alara's bedroom. "Someone built this to disappear," he muttered. The tunnel ran far beyond the Wynn property, under the yard, beneath the street, and toward other houses in the neighborhood. It was a hidden underground network, carefully reinforced, perfectly silent. A maze. Inside one of the chambers, police found a small mattress, a bucket, and empty food containers. Someone had been living there, recently. "There's body heat residue," a tech said. "Whoever stayed here left hours ago." But something else was there. A child's bracelet. Ilara's. The realization hit the team like a punch to the chest. She had been held inside the walls. And then she had been moved. More secrets surfaced about Marcus Hale, the long-dead architect. Old police reports were uncovered. Young women had vanished near his property decades earlier. He had never been charged. There was never enough evidence, because no one had ever searched his walls. Security footage from surrounding homes was pulled. At 2:13 a.m., the same time Mrs. Carter heard the thud, Ilara's bedroom light flickered on. Then something appeared inside. A shadow, tall, thin, watching. No door opened, no window moved. The shadow simply emerged inside her room. He didn't enter. He was already there. As fear spread through the city, police realized something worse. If Marcus Hale built tunnels under this house, he may have built them under many, and whoever was using them now could be anywhere. That night, a scream was heard 2 blocks away. Another girl, another house. The hunt was on. The city was no longer sleeping. After the second scream echoed through the neighborhood, police flooded the streets, blocking roads, surrounding houses, and scanning every inch of ground. Helicopters circled above, their lights cutting through the darkness like blades. Detective Rowan Hale stood in the middle of it all, staring at the underground map now laid out before him. The tunnels Marcus Hale had built decades earlier didn't belong to just one house. They connected 7 homes in the same neighborhood, a hidden world beneath an ordinary street. And somewhere in that world, Ilara Wynn was still alive. Heat sensors picked up movement beneath an abandoned tool shed at the edge of the block. Officers surrounded it, weapons raised. "Something's under there," a voice crackled through the radio. They tore open the floor. A narrow staircase descended into blackness. SWAT teams went down first. The air was damp, cold, heavy with fear. At the end of a long corridor, they found a locked steel door. They broke it open. Inside was a small concrete room. A girl lay curled in the corner, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. "Ilara," one officer whispered. She was alive, weak, dehydrated, but breathing. As medics rushed her out, Detective Hale felt a weight lift from his chest, only to be replaced by something colder. Because there was someone else who wasn't there, the man who took her. No body, no blood, no sign of escape, just empty tunnels leading into darkness. Later, Ilara told them everything. She had woken up that night to breathing behind her wall. The mirror cracked as a panel slid open. A man stepped out. Not a ghost, not a monster. A human who had been living inside the house for years. He had built the tunnels using Marcus Hale's designs, continuing the work of a man who never stopped hiding. He watched families, he memorized routines, he waited. When Ilara discovered him, he took her, not out of the house, but deeper into it. Marcus Hale had died, but his nightmare never did. The Wynn house was sealed, the neighborhood slowly returned to normal, but some nights, people still swear they hear footsteps beneath their floors, and sometimes a wall will quietly breathe.